Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Altitude Sports. With the holidays coming up, it's the perfect time to gear up for winter training or to start thinking about a few gift ideas. And Altitude Sports makes it incredibly easy to find exactly what you need. Everything is 100% online, which means you don't have to brave the crowded malls or fight your way through the holiday rush. You can shop comfortably from home and still get the gear you need in time. They carry all the top running brands like Hoka, New Balance, ACXC, Brooks, Saucony, Salomon, and On, as well as many more. Whether it's shoes, apparel, or accessories, you'll find exactly what you're looking for. They deliver next day across Canada and same day in Montreal. And if something doesn't fit, returns are super easy. No printer needed, just scan the QR code they send you. So whether you're shopping for yourself or looking for the perfect holiday gift, head to altitudesports.com and use promo code SHAKEOUT to get up to 20% off your first order. Conditions apply. You'll find all the details and the link in the episode description. 2023, Ceili McCabe stormed to a convincing win at the Canadian Cross Country Championships in Ottawa, her first national title at the 10K distance. Over the next 12 months, she would go on to break the Canadian record in the 3,000-meter steeplechase and make her Olympic debut in that event in Paris. McCabe accomplished all this while still a student at West Virginia University, and after a banner year in 2024, her 2025 season began much the way fans had come to expect, with an indoor season that culminated with a thrilling victory in the 3,000 meter at the NCAA Division I Championships. While the prospect looked great for a dominant outdoor season to cap her collegiate career and springboard McCabe into the professional ranks, it was not to be, instead missing out on her last collegiate season and first as a pro due to injury. After missing out on seeing Ceili in competition this outdoor track and field season, the wait for Canadian running fans to see her back at a national championship was worth it, as she returned in style this past weekend with a masterclass performance at the 2025 Canadian Cross Country Championships in London. In her first national championship as a pro, McCabe broke away from the field and never looked back, running nearly a minute clear of the competition to retake her ACXC crown and remove any doubt as to whether she was back to her pre-injury form. Today, Ceili joins the Shakeout Podcast to recap her ACXC win, discuss her road back from injury, and share what lies ahead in 2026, her first full season as a pro. Ceili, welcome to the Shakeout Podcast. Great to have you back.
Thanks so much for having me.
Really looking forward to diving in and discussing the race and everything leading up to it, and hopefully all the exciting stuff coming out the other side of it as well. And I want to start with the race recap itself. You led pretty much that entire thing gun to tape. Was that always the plan going in?
Not really. I think always coming in, I mean I'm pretty familiar with some of the girls in the race, and especially the two that finished second and third. Like we've been in college together for a while, so I think I kind of definitely respect what they do, and obviously Florence coming off of probably one of the most competitive races on in the world, really, when it comes to NCAA racing, and Chloe kind of gearing up for indoor season in college still. So I kind of knew that we're coming from a little bit different spots through training in the fall, but that it was they're really tough competitors. So I was really wanting to just run strong, and making the team was kind of the main goal, looking ahead to January for World Cross. So it kind of played out that way, and it probably wasn't my ideal to be running kind of the majority of it kind of solo, but just good to get in a good effort, and just nice to kind of have that box checked.
You talk about running that hard effort solo, and it's kind of the double-edged sword of when you're as fit as you were this past weekend, you can afford to do that, but it doesn't necessarily make it any easier to be out there by yourself. How did you prep in training for a hard, sustained effort like that? Was there anything that you did this fall that you can point to as something that maybe made you really well prepared to take it on this weekend?
Yeah, I think generally, in our training, we're pretty strength based, I would say, and so a lot of it kind of leans towards kind of being, while you're not maybe focusing on a 10K or half marathon, I kind of have the confidence that kind of my ability, I guess, sort of extends up nicely to those distances. And I think this fall, especially because it was a little bit more of an extended fall than I've had previous years, kind of coming off track and going straight into an NCAA cross season. I think it's allowed me to be a little steadier. And I think it's not like I haven't kind of put in good work and good workouts, but trying to kind of make those efforts a little bit steadier so I have kind of some room to go when it comes to kind of wanting to be at my best in January and beyond and into the track season. So I think really just sticking with I guess some of those steadier, longer efforts, I think this fall was played well into this type of thing.
I believe it. You talk about that steadier build, and you haven't had a track season that went straight into a cross-country season for the first time in a long time. For our listeners, a reminder that you've been running in the college system in the NCAA at West Virginia now for over 6 years. This would have been your final outdoor season this spring, and unfortunately you lost that to injury, which had the silver lining of giving you a nice long runway to get ready for these cross-country championships. But I know that that wasn't the script that you would have written for yourself, is to lose out on that final year of outdoor eligibility. Can you take us back to the root of the injury and how you were able to come back stronger from it? Because obviously it seems like you're back to full strength after what we saw this weekend.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, it's one of those things where it just wasn't quite how I anticipated it going. I think even kind of tracing back to like the beginning of that cycle last year, coming off Paris and going into the cross country season, I kind of felt like I carried some momentum into that and was training pretty well through the winter and didn't quite end off NCAA cross as well as I wanted to. I think as a team that was totally blew my expectations out of the water, and individually like maybe not quite so much. And so going into the winter, I definitely was wanting to I guess be able to perform well kind of at the indoor championship. And it was a little bit of somewhat of like a rocky winter in terms of just trying to kind of keep things steady. Like you want to get back to the championship and sort of like make amends for things that you kind of maybe missed out on. So I think kind of training quite hard through the winter, and fortunately, you get rewarded sometimes, and I was able to win a 3K title indoors. But I think coming off of the back of that, I wasn't maybe totally quite as recovered as I'd hoped to be, and I had a little kind of hip injury pop up, and I kind of thought it was something that would kind of go away. I was having a little bit of a small bit of downtime, because I think coming out of indoors, I don't generally rush into outdoors because I'm hoping it's going to be an extended season. So that usually between like March, April is sort of a time where I'm just like rebuilding, and we really do start again, and in some ways, and like get back to kind of the basics, and I wasn't able to do that, and kind of tried to drag it out as long as I could, see if I could make something work. I think the steeple was a little bit out of question at that point, just with how difficult it is kind of on your body at the best of times. Eventually just realized like I wasn't able to kind of compete at the level that I would want. At that point, knowing that, maybe it wasn't going to happen to be at the NCAA championship, I felt like maybe I could have gotten back and squeezed something in to get a qualifier time for the World Championships. But I think looking ahead, I kind of just took the perspective to, instead of just rushing back for something, like take the time that I haven't had in the last few years to really have like an entire summer, or like most of the summer. I was kind of back training fully by August, but still running in July. And so being able to then look ahead to like a January championship where I could kind of think like I could be really ready for that, rather than kind of trying to squeeze something in the summer and then kind of being partially ready for both. So I think it ultimately now has allowed me to have like 5 or 6 months of like proper training, which I think I've used kind of to my benefit for sure.
It certainly seems like you've used it to your benefit, and it hits at an interesting crossroads that you're probably finding yourself at right now, which is that transition from a collegiate system where you're running 3 very competitive seasons back to back to back, and then on top of that trying to do things at the international level. You were competing with pros for the last number of years, even though officially you were still a college student. And when you think back to the span of racing that you'd done kind of fall of 2023 through the spring and summer of 2024, where you broke the Canadian record in the steeplechase, you made your first Olympic team. You then go straight back into a brutal collegiate cross-country system where you're leading your team to a podium performance in cross-country, and then you just keep that ball moving. Like you mentioned, the national championship indoors in March of 2025. But from the outside looking in, you start looking at the density of racing, and it makes more sense as to why eventually the body needs that break. And again, obviously, unfortunate circumstances to miss out on the college outdoor season, but has there been an element of excitement that's come out of this new chapter now that you are looking beyond your college career? You signed your first professional contract this summer with On, and you finally have the time to pick and choose your races a little bit more carefully and to run for yourself rather than for a team. Obviously, running for a college team is one of the most special experiences in the sport, but what so far has been the most exciting part about this new chapter, about being a professional and being able to do what's best for Ceili rather than what's best for West Virginia all the time?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think it's really about being able to pick, I guess, the races and the times. I think I was fortunate enough through college to have a coach that he's from Canada and kind of knows the Canadian system and definitely prioritizes kind of like competition at the international level. But obviously, yeah, you do have to balance being ready for your team and being able to show up for 3 seasons. And so things do, there's never going to be ideal timing. And I think in this phase, we wanted to kind of keep me on like somewhat of a similar schedule, getting ready for cross as the collegiates were getting ready, but then just taking it a step beyond that and really being able to pull back and say, like, I probably don't need to be hammering 10 by 1K September 20th, and I can leave that for later on. And I think like being able to pick races and then being able to, like, I guess, take a step back in the training and really be intentional about when we're doing things and how I'm progressing and having a little bit more control on it. I think, you can't always like predict exactly what's going to happen and how your body's going to react to things. And you might have some slip ups here and there, but I think just overall taking kind of like that bigger perspective on the season and really marking out things and then going after some stuff that's really high quality. And I think that's why I was really excited for World Cross, because I think there's not often when you really do get the best athletes in the world, especially at the front. Like that is like the highest level. And so like being able to like put that on the calendar and then go after that fully, I think is just something that you don't always get a chance to do while you're in college on that system.
To be able to prioritize a world championship as the one and only goal of a training block is something that you don't have the luxury of doing when you need to run a full conference championship calendar, a national championship calendar, and juggle all of that with an academic workload. I mean, you were a full-time student athlete, and that's important to remember as well. You talk about working with Coach Sean Cleary, who you're still working with. He's been the coach at West Virginia for years, obviously a huge part of your success as a collegiate. What was the decision process like when you were looking ahead to stay with Sean for this next chapter as a pro?
Yeah, and it's something that I think I've been kind of thinking about, like, I guess throughout my last couple years about like what that transition might look like. And I think we're really fortunate enough that he's willing to kind of give his time to a lot of the post collegiates that are still in town here. And I think, when we do have kind of such a cohesive group, like it kind of works super well. Looking into the transition, I think sometimes I kind of felt like, you're already kind of competing at like another level now and trying to keep as many things the same as possible for me. I think obviously sometimes like you need change and that's a good thing. But I think because he always had like a very long-term perspective on my running career and it looked kind of well beyond my time in college and down the road, I think it was a very comfortable transition, because I think the entire time that I had been in this program, he was kind of thinking those steps ahead as well. And so I think it just made for a little bit more of a seamless transition to attack some of these goals and maybe not have kind of this period of like transition where you're in a whole new place, the whole new team and coach. And so I think it just, it really worked. And I'm super fortunate to have some training partners. We had a girl come to our program last year, Joy Nakot, who's still in college, but is someone that pushed me a lot, like last year, and to be able to then stay with her training here along with some of the other college athletes and post collegiates, I think just was a pretty comfortable situation for me.
That continuity is such a huge part when you're already making so many other big changes, like signing a professional contract and looking at these world championships as the A races on your calendar. Um, yeah, you talk about World Cross Country next month. What's the goal going into that, and how are you going to take this momentum from ACXC and continue to build towards World Cross?
Yeah, it's definitely super exciting, and I think like initially just like even looking at the team that Canada's bringing, I think hopefully given that everyone's is kind of keen to run it, I think it's super exciting to go in with a strong team and a pretty young team, and so that in of itself is a cool thing to know you're going into it as a really good collective. I think yeah, it's in the back of my mind. You're always kind of like looking to make that jump into kind of like the world class level and competing with those women. I think one of the reasons I went out to Wales like earlier last month was to kind of experience some of that competition with some athletes that might be at that world championship. And I think, I mean, obviously it's a deep championship. It's I mean, the most competitive in the world, really at the top end. And so, um, I never like to put like a huge number, I guess, of like where I'd want to finish, but at the same time, it's like you kind of know in that top 15, that top 20 are some really competitive runners, and on a really good day, if you can go beyond that, that's great. But just putting myself in there with athletes that then you'll see go on to run well under 15 on the track, and in the steeple you're gonna have some of those ladies as well. So I think just putting myself in trying to be competitive with those people then in the summer I want to be competitive with as well is the goal.
There is really no foot race on earth that rivals the depth of competition of a World Cross Country Championships, and at a course that you're also familiar with in Tallahassee, having run there as an NCAA athlete. Is there anything about that course that you remember from your time in college that excites you or makes you nervous as you look ahead to World Cross in just over a month's time?
Yeah, for sure. I it was my best cross country finish in college there, and I think that was probably my first um, big, I guess, breakout type race as an NCAA runner and as a sophomore. And so I definitely have some good memories there. It's extremely flat and extremely fast. And so, I'm sure they're going to try to put some obstacles in there to rough it up a little bit. But I think going in, it's with the likes of Chibet and a lot of those women, like they're going to be running fast, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're running in 30 some, and I think that's something that maybe you don't see a ton in World Cross being in Europe and that type of thing. So the competition is going to stay the same, but that course is definitely is capable of being quite fast. So I think it'll be exciting and hopefully kind of good conditions to also be competitive.
Was that in the back of your mind at all this past weekend in London, where you certainly could have afforded to back off the gas pedal, but did you keep your foot to the floor knowing that in a race like World Cross, you're not going to be able to call the shots the way that you were at these national championships, and so you just have to get comfortable suffering at kind of your all-out pace?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think when going into the race, it's like that wasn't quite the goal. And one thing my coach said is like, if you make that decision, you have to kind of commit to it. And unfortunately, that was a lot earlier than I would have liked. But I think it is true, and it is going to be very different from a lot of the collegiate races that though I never won an NCAA cross title, being at the front and being able to dictate a lot of the races earlier in the season as well is something that you won't get a chance to do. So I think, yeah, getting comfortable with just hanging on, staying in the pack, knowing that, yeah, it probably is going to be at some speeds that you are running your 6K cross at, and having to obviously, stay within yourself to some extent. You don't want to, blow up and over 10K, but knowing that it is going to probably feel uncomfortable. And again, like, yeah, you're not going to dictate anything when you have um, that level of competition. So yeah, definitely just getting used to the rhythm of 10K and knowing that yeah, it's probably going to feel pretty terrible for a lot of it.
You talk about them throwing some barriers out on that course to try and slow it up. My first thought as a fellow steeplechaser is, oh, that could only stand to benefit you. Do you think that your steeplechase background has the potential to help on the cross country course? This is probably a question that you've gotten a million times before in your career as a great steeple and cross runner. Do those help each other?
I think they should. And for some reason, I still feel like I'm like exposed when I go over them. Even at the race I did a couple weeks ago, there was one single log over the course, and I thought like, man, like I probably should be the best over this. And I think I was like the last one over every single time, and I was like, I think maybe it's just in my head a little bit. And so, yeah, I think it should be fine. I think the one thing is kind of, yeah, with that steeple background, being able to be a good person in fartleks and change a pace and change a rhythm. I think that's something that I'm pretty comfortable with, getting your stride back, getting back into rhythm. And regardless of how pretty maybe the going over it is, I think yeah, I'm pretty confident that it won't be thrown off too much.
And does the idea of a flat, fast course excite you? Are those the type of courses that you like? What does Ceili McCabe's ideal cross country course look like?
I haven't totally figured that out really. I think in college, in the NCAA, you're used to a lot of pretty runner friendly courses, and they're fast. I think it makes up for that in how fast people are running on them. So it kind of is a double-edged sword. Which I think is similar here. I think it does play into my strengths a little bit. I do like getting out from the gun and running hard, and I think that's going to be conducive to what we see here, barring any like crazy weather or anything like that. So I think it'll be like a pretty fair course, and I think I like that about cross, where the fittest runner, I think, does benefit regardless. So yeah, over 10K, I think it takes a little bit of that. I think sometimes in college you get a 6K, and you have some mid-distance runners that can hang on when maybe their fitness is not at par with some other people. But I think over 10K, even with a fast course, I think it'll be a fair course to kind of show fitness on.
You mentioned this earlier. Canada's bringing a relatively young team. The podium was made up of all NCAA recent graduates or current student athletes, yourself, Florence Caron, and Chloe Thomas. Chloe Thomas coming second, Florence third. What's it like seeing this depth of women's talent in the country right now that is still so young and has so much to learn on the international stage as you look ahead? I mean, you're only 24 yourself, and you're really the veteran of this team. What's that like for the future of the sport in this country?
Yeah, it's super cool. I think like too, it's like really exciting that they want to run cross. I think sometimes it's like it's easy to kind of just put that aside and focus on the track or focus on the roads, whatever that may be out of college. But I think the excitement and the desire to run cross and um, also be competitive. I think the NCAA sets you up pretty well to be in that environment where you're not taking things for granted. It's a tough system to run in, and so I think it's cool to have people then now getting an earlier start in making these national teams and wanting to make an impact right away. And I think that's something that's super cool. And Grace Featherstone as well, someone that it's awesome kind of being able to run with someone that you're running with in high school and kind of going up together. And I think yeah, just that there is a desire to do it, and I think that'll carry well over to the track as well. And I have no doubt that they will kind of be making those improvements on the track come summer as well.
Talking about track a little bit, you've already stated that you're starting 2026 off with the World Cross Country Championships. Those are January 11th, Tallahassee, Florida. What's the year look like after that point? There's no Outdoor World Championship this year, which is in some ways probably a break after a crazy last number of years where you had Eugene 2022, Budapest 2023, the Olympics 2024. What is 2026 going to look like for you in your first full season as a pro, Ceili?
It's something that like I had I guess World Crosses as the event on the calendar, but I think I'd really like to kind of parlay that with into a world indoor if I can. That's as many international experiences I can have is something that that I've really strived to take advantage of. So yeah, hopefully kind of can get recovered from what's probably going to be a pretty tough effort, and hopefully can kind of get straight to the indoor season. I'll hopefully look to run up at BU somewhere like that, and kind of chase that indoor 3K standard, which is yeah, it's getting quicker and quicker, and so I think it's a good challenge to kind of set up for, and then hopefully yeah, I guess take advantage of the World Championship in Poland, and then I mean ultimately the long term goal really is a steeple at the Commonwealth Games, and I think as someone like that's run it like you, it's like a super cool event, and something that um now I can kind of look at, and I want to be in a position that maybe I can medal and or be in that realm, and I think that this is a really, I guess, yeah, good build to have in January, and be able to hopefully kind of keep that momentum up, maybe where I wasn't able to do so last year.
Yeah, learn from, I don't want to call them mistakes, because if anything, they seemed like just a natural outcome. Eventually, we all are going to face some injuries, and you had a very successful run of health for a lot of years in a row and accomplished a lot, and gave the body the time it needed, it seems, this past summer to recover, to absorb those years of training that had been put in. And we've seen you come back even stronger for it. It's exciting to know that there's so much more in store, especially with the freedom that you now have as a professional, looking ahead to those World Indoor Championships in Poland, to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow this summer, giving yourself every opportunity to compete against the very best in the world. Kaylee, we're so excited to cheer you on as we look ahead to 2026. We wish you the very best of luck as you lead this Canadian contingent into the World Cross Country Championships, and hopefully that taste of international competition in Tallahassee continues to build more momentum for more success down the road on the indoor track and outdoors in the steeple for the rest of the year. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Another huge thank you to Kaylee for taking time to talk with us about her ACXC win and set the stage for the World Cross Country Championships. Make sure to give her a follow on Instagram at Ceili McCabe, as she and the rest of the Canadian contingent prepare to take on the best in the world next month in Tallahassee, Florida. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Shakeout Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss out on all the exciting episodes coming your way. That's it for this week's episode. I'm your host, John Gay, saying thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon for your next Shakeout.